Hi, it's Hayley from the Arch and Olive team, and today I'll be previewing the new wax seal offerings coming Wednesday, September 10th with the Halloween collection. Wax seals can add a special personalised touch to letters, crafts and your journal pages, so here's some ways to get started and fun things to try. So the items you're going to need to get started is a wax melting kit. This includes the stand for your candle and spoon, the spoon to put on top, and a candle. And Adhering and Olive offer that as a set. You then will need some wax beads. They have two options at the moment, which is the glow-in-the-dark colours or the black sparkles set. Next, you're going to need a wax seal stamp. This is the one that comes in the Halloween collection that has a coiled snake design. But we also did used to have some other options that I'll show some examples with if you already have these lying around. Last thing you're going to need is something to do the stamps on. So I'm going to show most of the examples just on a little paper pad. But of course you can be putting these on some nice stationery and envelopes. Or you can also use a ceramic or silicone surface to put the stamps on. So you then can peel them and put some adhesive to use them in other places. So I will show some examples with that too. So to get started, let's start the candle and the kit. So I'm going to place the candle in the stand first because this is going to be easiest for lighting. And then use a long lighter or match. Now this will start to get really warm, so make sure that you're on a suitable surface and don't touch the metal once it starts to heat up. Then you're going to want to rest your spoon. For the first design, I'm going to try it out with the black beads. So with these beads, you usually need 3 to 4 beads, but because these ones are a little bit larger, I'm going to go in with 3 to start and see how that looks. And I'm just going to leave you a little time lapse of that melting. And as you can see, it's melting already. So I just want to know, with this pendant seal that comes in the Halloween collection, this has been designed to also be a pendant or something that you can clip onto bags. So what I have done is I've just unhooked the ring from the seal, just so when you're using this, it's a little bit nicer weighted. So I'm going to do this first test here in the memo pad. And when that wax is ready, we're going to pour it in a circle. We're going to put the wax seal place on top, let the weight of this wax seal press into the design, and then wait for it to cool. So the wax is looking mostly melted. I'm going to just give it a little stir to get those lumps in the middle to melt faster. And that's looking good. So the melting spoon has a little pourer. That's the bit that you want to use for placing where you want the wax to go. Go in a nice circular motion. And then once you have all the wax out, place the seal on the top. And then just let it sit there and wait and dry. Now you can easily clean this spoon out between uses with a paper towel. Now you do want to clean this out when it's wet, so just be careful when you're cleaning it out. Have a lot of paper towel so you don't burn yourself on the hot metal. You don't have to clean it out between uses, but if you're switching wax beads or if you want a different colour or something, then just give that a quick wipe. Now let's see how this is doing. I'm going to give this a little tug, and beautiful. So that came out nice and clean, so it was ready. And then now you can see the design. Now how about we try black with the green? So I think that's going to look so good with the snake stamp. So putting those into melt. One thing that makes the glow-in-the-dark seals a little bit more tricky is that this will go clear as it melts, so it's hard to see where the colours are, but we will see a difference between the black wax. So once that melts, you can give these inks a little bit of a stir together. One, to make sure it's all melted, but two, to have a little bit of a marbling effect on the wax. And then you can also help that when you pour, doing a little bit of a circular motion, mix the inks together. And then place the stamp. Now, as you see, I have really shaky hands, but I can still do it, so I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna give this a quick wipe out. And I'm thinking that should be ready now, so I'm just gonna carefully peel that out, and beautiful. Now be careful because this metal can get hot too, so I'm just gonna place that down. And here is the marbling effect between the black and the green. So obviously you can do it on paper and just stick it into your journal this way. You can also carefully peel them off this paper if you like, and there is some better ways to do that. I'm going to show you how you can make some wax seals peelable and then adhere them to whatever craft project or envelopes that you want. So let me quickly pop in 3 blacks for this example. And then what you're going to need is a ceramic or a silicone mat. Now, I don't have one to hand, so I thought I'd show you an example of what you can use if you don't have those. So I'm just going to use the bottom of a mug, and I've picked one that has a flat base, and that is important. So make sure it's flat, but just pick something that you already have in the house. And if it's ceramic or it's silicone and that can withstand heat, it will be great. So that's just melting. I'm also going to show you an example with one of the more classic stamp designs. So this was from a winter collection a little while ago, but this has the handle. So I'm going to give you an example with that. Okay, and when that's ready, pour it onto the surface. Oh, that might be quite a lot. And then place the stamp down, let it weight itself. I'm going to wipe this out so I can show you an example with just the glow in the dark too. So maybe let's try pink and blue. So the glow in the dark are a little bit smaller, so I'm going to go in with 4 of those and see how we do with that. And as that melts, let's see this design. And as you can see, it just peels up nicely from the ceramic. Beautiful. So with the black wax, as you can see, the design doesn't super pop, which if that's what you're looking for, great. But if you do want to make that design pop a little bit more, you can take an acrylograph or other paint pen and just lightly paint over that raised design. And now you can see the design just a little bit brighter, pops more. So that is also an option. I did it here on the snake stamp, just picking out the snake, which I think also gives a lovely finish. But with the glow in the dark, I think we will see the design more anyway, so let's give this one a go. Now, as you can see here with the 2 glow in the dark ink waxes, that it is hard to see where the colours are, so I'm just going to give that a really quick swirl and then swirl it more as I pour it. So we'll do this one again. Pour. Sure I got it all there. and then place. And then obviously also as this one dries, it's going to be way easier to see when it's dried because the colour will come back to the wax. So that's really fun with these seals. I don't actually have a black light to show you it glow in the dark, but these do beautifully show in the dark, and we'll show in product descriptions what colours look like versus in the dark versus in the light. You can see the effect it has on both. That looks like it's nearly done. I'm going to pull that off. How beautiful. Peel. And that has a way more pastel finish, so it's going to get stronger as it also cools in colour, but it'd be so fun to see those travelling on an envelope glowing in the dark. So pop that into the side. And then for the final stamp, I'm going to show you how to use a larger stamp like this. So this is going to need more ink. I've got a mix in here of the black sparkle, and then also I've just melted in some of a wax stick from one of the old subscription boxes. So you don't have to just use this as a stick. I cut this off and I just melted it into the spoon. So let's see how this turns out. Now this is going to be fuller, and I'm also going to have to pour in the direction of what the stamp looks like. So it's going to be a little bit more tricky, but we'll see. And we're ready. So let's see how this goes. I'm going to go more in a rectangular motion. There's way more ink. And then I'm going to let all the stamp do all the work again. So I probably used a little bit too much wax there, but we'll see how it turns out. And that's the fun about wax seals. You can just have fun and play around with different colours, different stamps, and you very rarely have a bad outcome. But worst case scenario, if this stamp isn't something I want to use, I can just pop it back into the melting spoon and use again. So I just want to give you one last example of how to do that. So I dropped a bit of wax earlier, and I also had a stamp that I didn't quite like, so I'm just going to quickly cut that up and add it to the spoon. And then just make up what I need with the beads. And as that's melting, let's see how this rectangular seal did. And there we have it. Now that was my first time using the rectangular seal, so I'm sure when I try it again, I'll be able to get a bit more centered and know how to pour it a little bit more down the center instead of having such a wide pour. But I love that. And the final one, just using that leftover wax. And what shall we do again? Let's try this one last time. Yes, I think that's the most circular one yet. And it was the most chaotic laying it down. I'm going to wipe up this one last time. And stick this. And there we have it. A seal made out of the leftover wax from other bits, and a seal that I didn't like how it turned out. And then just before we finish, now that we have lots of these wax seal stamps that aren't adhered to anything, what you can do is adhere them to paper, to journals, to crafts. And how I like to do that is actually with double-sided tape. So I'll put the tape on the back of the stamp and just peel that and adhere it when I'm ready to. Now if you want it to stick to something forever, you could use something like super glue or a glue gun, but for most things I think the double-sided tape is perfect. So for example, if you wanted to use the seal on an envelope, instead of having the stress of pouring it onto the envelope directly, now I can do them separately and then adhere it on there when I'm ready to send the envelope. So thank you very much for joining us today to look at the wax seal offerings that we have for Halloween. Hopefully I covered everything in this video and all the questions you have, but if not, please add them in the comments and we'll be responding below. But if you are seeing these and want to get them, they are launching on Wednesday, September 10th with our Halloween collection, and we can't wait to see you there. Thank you very much for watching this video and see you next time. Not like that. Now let's see how this is doing. I think this is, oh, it's still wet. That surprised me. So again, just giving that a quick swirl. Oh, that's not actually melted. You can give these inks, mix the inks together. This is going to need more ink, way more ink, too much ink there. Dry, I am just gonna, no, not for me.